Hey, catalytic leaders, it is an honor today to have Stephen Lentz with us. Stephen, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Doc. I'm happy to be here. Happy to guest.
Man, it's an honor to have you. You have had a very interesting journey. I mean, as we've talked a little bit about this, you grew up as a military kid. You were a firefighter EMT for over 10 years, and
Yeah.
now you're a digital marketer. I mean, to see leadership in all of those different venues, I'd love to hear a little bit of your story and as you've picked up different nuggets from leaders along the way.
Yeah. I think for everyone, our idea of leadership stems from the familial upbringing, right? Like my idea of leadership first came from, having a dad who led the family, very authoritative, very business, right? Like I'm much more snuggly with my kids and want to like make that relationship. But when dad was home for me as a kid, it was like, hey, this is the law, this is the rule. Like you got in trouble, you'll wait for dad to come home and spank you, right? Like totalitarian government of the house.
Right.
And I was like, I don't really agree with this, but whatever. And like my journey of, 1,000 jobs, which I think is funny. I had 1,000 steps, but 1,000, like literally, like I've driven a forklift, I've rigged sand traps at golf courses, I've sold life insurance over the phone, I've done vacuums door, like I've done a lot of different things, and I've seen a lot of different styles, and I'm like, wow, a lot of people really suck at leading. But it's, but when I got to the fire service, it was a very cool transition for me, and seeing what leadership looked like from people who are invested in you and care, and being part of a machine that, while you have autonomy to make decisions and do things for you, like you were given the flexibility and the leash to make mistakes.
Mm.
Right? Like, well, that's one thing that I love about the fire service is that when I go on a call, right, like yes, I have a captain, he's probably back at the station with someone else unless he's with me, but he's generally not with me. Like it's me and my partner. Like if it's my patient, I am the boss,
Mhm.
and I'm going to decide what course of action they should take. Should they stay home? Should they go to the hospital? Which hospital are they going to? Are they lying to me? Like all the different
Mhm.
things that I need to figure out, and I make my decision. We go to a car wreck, and yes, the captain is in charge of the scene. But he's like, hey, make a plan for taking care of this. Make a plan A, make a plan B, right? Get the people out of the car. And I go up and I
Mhm.
assess it and I say, this is going to be the best course of action. I will do X, Y, and Z in this order, right? And I'll order the people around to go that way. And if I make a mistake, like I'm not taken back and browbeaten and sent to my room for 5 hours. It's like, hey man, why did you make this mistake? I'm like, well, I saw this, and so since I saw this, I thought X, Y, and Z, and so I did X to solve Y, so I get this outcome Z. And they go,
Mhm.
it makes sense that you thought that way, but you did it wrong. Like
Yeah.
this is we do it this way, and this is why. So next time you see this, like do that instead. It's like, cool, okay, I learned, right? Like it's not
Mhm.
this punishment and you're in trouble for making a mistake, or how come you took this person to this hospital instead of this hospital? This is what I thought. I'm like, okay, well, this is wrong, or this is why we do this now. And you get the reason behind the rules,
Right.
right? The method to the madness. It's not just like, hey, you're going to do this because I said it, or this is this way because I'm the boss. It's we do this because these are the outcomes that we're looking for, and this is the better user experience, and this is better for the client. And so getting that perspective of leadership, of a leader who you're not anxious to talk to,
Mm.
right? You're not
Mm.
anxious to be like, I'm gonna get like tongue lash now because I did something and I don't want to bring it up. Like I don't have to avoid my boss because I'm worried about that. And then within that leadership thing, like it's firefighting is very blue collar. And
Mm.
while you are a captain or a lieutenant, depending where you're at, and who's in charge of the crew, there's still a lot of like hands-on work that's done. And
Mm.
so I've got to see captains who, when station clean day came around, they are with the crew cleaning the bathrooms and vacuuming the floors and doing all the other stuff, and I saw other
Mm.
captains who would like lock themselves into the office and pretend to do busy work. And so you have like this dichotomy of someone who is part of the crew and part of the team in that servant leadership, and other people who are trying to reap the benefits of leadership, if you will,
Mm.
right? And so, and even seen from that, right, like, and experiencing both types of captains. I mean, like I love working with the captain because he's out there with us and he's part of the crew and he's investing in us and he cares about us. Versus other one's like, I was kind of self-seeking, and we all know it. And we're not going to say anything because he's the boss, but it affects morale and it affects our perception of him. And so you have that change. And so then it's like, well, what kind of leader do I want to be?
Mm.
Because then as a firefighter, our chief was like, hey man, like I really want you to like work on promoting. Like you should be like, I want you to be a captain. I was like, well, I don't really want to be a captain. I appreciate that. I don't want the responsibility. I don't want the extra work. Like I'm happy being the senior guy on my shift and doing the stuff and like working on these things. Like I don't need it. He's like, well, like we need you. I was like, okay, what if I just act?
Mm.
Right? Like when the captain is gone, like you need to be, tested and certified and stuff to be an actor or an acting captain to fill that role and take the leadership on for that day and do all the stuff that needs to happen.
Mm.
So I acted for our department. So when our boss would be gone, I would be the boss sometimes. Right. And so from that, I was like, well, I liked who I was better as a boss than who I was as a firefighter, which I thought was a very interesting transition for me because I wanted to be that boss who showed up for the crew. Like I had very strict requirement. My requirement was everyone goes home.
Yeah.
Like that's my crew is my priority for this shift. Like,
Yeah.
they are important to me. And my whole goal is that yes, we, help people and do these other things, but at the end of the day, like my people come first. So how can I serve my people to help them and make sure that they know that they are important to me, that they come first, and that if they have an issue with me, they can tell me. Like, again, they can have complete autonomy and do their stuff. And as long as like we are thoughtful in how we do things, like it's not a problem. But we need to make sure that we can have that communication. And like, I don't know everything. And I think the other thing too is like putting that pride and ego aside of being like, hey, I don't know everything. So if you think something should be done differently, tell me and I'll make a decision from that. Like, yes, I'm still the boss. I'm going to make this decision. But when you're on an emergency scene, there's not a whole lot of room for pride. There's room for quick decisions and you have to make those. But as far as like your ego, it doesn't matter. And I think when it comes into the business world, that gets lost. A lot of business leaders that talk to, it's all about me and the ego and the pride and the image. My goal is to be that servant leader. Yeah. And I was more effective and more efficient with how I behaved and the work that I did. Yeah. Because if there was a task to do, I didn't want to be like the guy who hid away in the office and ordered the minions around. Yeah. Be like, hey, I'm out here, I'm doing this. I'd like you to come help me and like pull your weight too. And I think like that is a very different mentality that I see from a lot of different jobs. Is I get to sit behind my desk and order my people around like some real-time strategy game on the computer. Right. Like you guys will go mine the crystals and these guys will build my little factory and I'll, pump out some ads and there we go. Right. Like not how it works for me. So
that's so good.
That transition for me then from firefighting to digital marketing is with my own business. And when I have employees or VAs or whoever I'm interacting with that is working for me, is that my number one goal again has shifted and not to like, a sales quota or this or that. Like my goal is that for my own self personally, is that they're as successful as they can be. So I always say, how can I make you more successful? How can I help you succeed?
Okay. Say that one more time. Yeah.
My goal for myself is to make the people who work for me successful. That is my job. My job isn't to increase the revenue or to get better ad spend or get whatever it is or more visibility for the client, which I mean is the end goal, right? Like I'm here to serve the client, but my goal personally for the people that work for me is to make them successful.
Okay, listeners, I really hope you've written that down because that is key. One of the things, Stephen, that I talk about with catalytic leaders that distinguish them from non-catalytic leaders, a catalytic leader wants to make a significant change, wants to make a significant impact in the world by either initiating or accelerating change in their organization. One of the keys that I talk about with this is building up the people and the teams that you lead, investing in them, being for them. Not for them as a cog in your machine, but for them as an individual, as a person, a 3D human being. And that's exactly what I hear you describing.
Yeah. And I mean, like I said, like I've had a lot of different bosses and a lot of jobs that I didn't like and a few that I tolerated. And I'm going to, throw back to just after college or during college, but I worked at Starbucks for a year and a half, roughly. I don't like coffee. I don't like how it smells. I don't like going to coffee shops and getting like I don't like it, but I need the money.
Yeah.
Right. And so I was like, I'll do this. And I sat with the interview with the manager and I was very upfront and said, hey man, I'm here for a year. Like you have me for a year. She's like, well, do you like coffee? I was like, no. It's like, will you drink coffee? was like, if I have to, she goes, you have to at least taste it so you can describe it. I was like, okay. I mean, it all tastes the same to me. I don't like it's gross, but it is what it is, right? I was like, sure. But she was amazing. And I knew that she cared. And the shift supervisor, just like, she cared. And that made all the difference to me. In a job that I didn't like and couldn't stand, like, I would do anything for them. And I stuck around an extra half year just because they were great leaders, just because I knew that they cared about me and like worked around me. And if I had something that I need to drop my shift and I have to go somewhere and do something for this test, or something came up, like, they would do everything possible to either get me covered, or if possible for them, they would cover me themselves. Like that servant leadership again. And just, it made all the difference. And I think is part of the thing that modeled me for how I look at leadership of, I need to make the difference for my employees.
Yeah.
Or even the people that I hire to help me.
Yeah.
Like I have a guy who's helped me with my copy and stuff on my page, and he's selling for me. He's a commission salesman. He's like, you need to like, he's like, what was the words he used? He's like, so are you open to some suggestions for your website? And I go, hey man, you can tell me my copy sucks. Like,
yeah,
that's fine. He's like, well, where did you get it from? I was like, well, like I made some copy and I threw it together and did this other thing here. And he's like, okay, well, we can. It's like, hey man, you don't have to massage me, right? Like, tell me what you need, right? Like, if you need this to change to make you a better salesperson, tell me what you want. That's it. Like, you're not going to hurt my ego. Like, it doesn't matter. I think it's not about me. My job is to make him successful. And so if he's like, you need to change this, you need to add this, you need to do that. Cool. That's my job. My job is to help them. And that's how I view leadership is, what can I do for them to make them better and do their job well? And that also goes in autonomy, right? Like, I don't want the people who work for me to be afraid to come talk to me. If they have an issue, it needs to come to me, because if it doesn't, then we're just going to be, swirling in madness of escalating problems and closed offness and a breakdown in communication that eventually explodes. I use the example of a divorce, right? It's not the sock on the floor that made them want the divorce. It's all the stuff that led up to it that wasn't, discussed and talked about, and finally blows up because it's just there. Like, you have a problem, you have an issue. There's things with clients, there's things with me and my stuff. Like, it doesn't matter. You need to be able to come to me, and I need to be able to receive it in a way that doesn't make you fear for your job, or feel like I'm going to demean you, or that you're not going to be heard. I'm just going to be like, well, that was cool, you said what you said, and I'm going to keep doing my thing. Like, they need to be valued. They need to feel valued. They need to know that I value them and that they're important. I know it's like the same thing, like 5 different ways, but they have the autonomy to also make decisions and make mistakes and move forward and learn and grow.
That's good.
And if I have something that's like, hey, I want you to do it this way, then I, for myself personally, want to also give them the why, because that's who I am.
Yeah.
I'm like, cool, here's a rule book. Okay, I see your rules. I think they're stupid. Why am I doing it this way? I don't care. If I know the why, then I'll care. But if you tell me do X, Y, and Z in X, Y, and Z order in X, Y, and Z way, that does nothing for me.
That's so fascinating. And I can hear the threads running through your story, moving from a family of origin, in a military space, and then moving into a firefighter realm. Now moving into the entrepreneurial space, like where you are in digital marketing and you're interacting with a lot of other entrepreneurs, right? Leaders in that space. What's the biggest difference you've seen in that world? Or what are some lessons that you've learned moving into that world?
I think the thing that I see, the polarizing effect of pride, right? Like, for myself, I don't have a whole lot of pride. I'm a principled, I'll sense myself a-hole, right? Like, I'm very strict, and I have my requirements and stuff. But as far as like the ego and pride thing, I don't care. Like, I don't understand the micromanagement aspect that a lot of business owners have. I don't want it. Like, that's not, I didn't create this so I could, play StarCraft with people and like make them do, scratch your nose at 12 o'clock. That's not my thing. Right? Like, I want you to go and I want you to do your thing and I want you to be good. I want it to work. And I've seen my own personal, experience is that I do the best work when I don't have a monkey riding on my back. So why would I want to be a monkey? How is that helpful to anyone who's working for me?
That's good.
You don't need to feel like I'm in the truck watching you doing your job, fixing the toilet for someone, right? Like, that's not the point.
Yeah.
So that's my take on it. Is I see a lot of leaders that are like, oh, everything needs to funnel through me, and I want to see everything, and I have a hard time trusting my team, and people don't do good work. And it's like, well, they probably don't feel valued. They're not invested because you don't care, right? Like, you're in it for you. And at the human level, we understand that and we see that.
Yeah.
When I talk to someone, it's very quickly apparent to me, like, who they are as a person.
I think what you're describing is really this people-centered leadership, where you care about the people that you're leading beyond just their contribution to what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't know if you listen to Gary Vee at all, but I mean, he talks about it all the time too. It's like, if you have a people problem, it's probably you.
Nice.
Like, you have an issue in your organization because you suck. Like,
that's great.
Like, your employees don't care about your business. Like, it's not their business. Like, you're paying them to show up and do some job. Like, they don't care. Right? This isn't their baby.
Well, and the quiet quitting that's happening right now, that's just so prevalent, where people are just doing the absolute bare minimum. You're watching the clock till they go home. I think that's rooted in that.
Yeah, I think. I mean, and coming from firefighting, like, I have a strong union bias.
Yeah.
Right. Because I've seen the benefit that it is and how the organizations have tried to take advantage of us, and if we didn't have contracts, we would have been screwed over. Like, and seeing businesses like, the small business with like 5 employees, they don't have representation. It's, I'm the boss and I made up this idea and you're going to, I'm renting your behavior for 8 hours. That's their mentality.
Yeah, sure.
And that mentality sucks. Like, who wants to work for someone who rents my behavior for 8 hours? Exactly. No. Right. Like, but they have this weird, again, that ego thing of like, well, I'm high and mighty. It's like, I don't care if you're a doctor. Like, you still put on your pants like one leg at a time.
It's true. I think what you're describing is the danger that is prevalent in leadership of beginning to read your own headlines and forgetting that the people that you lead are actual human beings, that they have lives outside of that 8 hours that you're renting their behavior. Yeah. Right.
Quiet quitting. That was, yep.
Yeah.
And so, like, and I've been there, right? Of the jobs that, like, they don't care about me. I'm a commodity. Yeah. They're like, oh, you don't like it, you can quit. Right. Cool. Well, I'm very motivated now to do all of my best for you.
Right. Right.
You think I'm a steaming pile of, X, Y, and Z. Cool. Yeah. You get what you pay for. And you're paying minimum wage. Guess what you get?
Right. Minimum effort.
Minimum effort. Absolutely. Like, I offer very good incentives and benefits to the people that work for me because I want them to know that they're valued. That's like, good. As a business owner and as an employee, like, part of the way that I feel valued is how I'm compensated. You're going to pay me minimum wage. Clearly you think that that's my worth. Like, I don't bring anything more to the table than $15 an hour. Right. Wow. You want a $30 an hour person providing that kind of customer service? Pay me what I'm worth. Yeah. Right. Like, show me that you care, that I'm part of this team. $15 an hour says that you can just replace me with, the high school guy that's flipping burgers.
That's good.
That's like the core principle of how do you value someone is what do you give them? Yeah. Now I understand. Maybe you're a small business owner and you're struggling with the bills and you can't pay them $20 an hour. Yeah. So how do you show them value? Right? You have to make it personal. I appreciate you, right? You tell them every single day, I appreciate you. Yeah. I appreciate that your girlfriend is, letting you be here and, that you're spending your time with us instead of her. I appreciate that you have a dog and it's sick and you need to go home and I'll cover your shift for you. Like, I'm going to get to know you and like your life and stuff. I had a VA in the Philippines. I knew just about everything about him. Not required, right? He's a VA. Sure. In the Philippines, who I'm never going to see, who, like, I say, hey man, make this happen, and then it's done. I know everything about David and his girlfriend Hannah and moving to the apartment and the power outages that they have and all the different stuff and his family on the other island. Like, because I'm invested and my job is to make him feel valued. I'm not paying him $30 an hour, but the way I make him feel valued is that if he has a problem, he knows he can talk to me and that I care about him and I'm learning about him and I know who he is and what's important to him. That's good. Hey man, you need this to be successful? Cool. Let me get that for you. Yeah. Right. I
I
tell him
think
all the time.
that's
He goes, Steve, I've never had a boss like you. He goes, you're amazing. He goes, I love working for you. I go,
wow.
thanks, man. Like, I love having you. Like, and that's my words to him. Like, I love having you.
Yes.
Not, I rented your
Yes.
behavior for 5 hours today. It's,
Right.
you're important to me.
I think that this is such a model for so many people, Stephen. And I think that's what matters. What you're describing and what you're painting a picture of from your own life and your own experience is that, yeah, if you can afford to pay people what they're worth and what you want to pull from them, you should. That's
Yeah.
an imperative.
Mm-hmm.
But if you can't, if you're a small business owner or you lead a nonprofit or a charity or a church or something that you don't have, massive resources, don't let what you can't do stop you from doing what you can.
Yep.
And every one of us can treat people like people.
Yep.
Every one of us can communicate that we are for those people on our team, right? That doesn't cost anything. It doesn't cost anything for you to get to know all about David's life. It didn't cost anything for you to be able to cheer him on and what's going on outside of what he does for you. You took those steps.
Yep.
That is catalytic.
Yeah. It's making people feel valued, I think, is
Yes.
the best thing you can do. And it makes the difference. And it's like malpractice suing, right? In the doctor's office.
Sure.
The doctors who get sued aren't the ones who are spending time with the patients.
Ooh.
That's how it is, right? The doctors who get sued are the ones who pop in for 3 seconds, look at the chart and go, yep, you're done. See ya. Like there's no relationship, there's no FaceTime, and the patient thinks they don't care. Those are the docs that get sued. The people who are getting sued aren't the ones who are taking 20, 15, 30 minutes to be like, hey, like, I understand your problem. This is the issue. This is the plan that I think is important to you. When you leave here, you should do X, Y, and Z. And if this comes up, you need to come back and see us. Like, I'm kind of worried about this, but I can't keep you here indefinitely. So you need to go home now. Like, that's not the doctor who's getting sued.
That's good.
And you look at the stats, and it's the same way when it comes to quiet quitting, is that the people who are quiet quitting and giving you the bare minimum because you pay them the bare minimum are the ones who don't feel valued. They're the people who feel like they don't care, you don't care, that they are not important to your organization.
That's it.
Guarantee you David felt important. Guarantee you he gave me his best.
Yeah.
Guarantee you didn't get paid the best. You didn't quiet quit. Like, that's the difference.
For the small business owners and the small organizations, we can make that application. Let's shift for a second to C-suite leaders, to corporate leaders, where you've got a lot of people who work for you and you may not know them that well. And you may not spend a lot of time with them because you're talking hundreds or thousands of people. How can you model the behavior that we're talking about in that type of leadership role?
It's the same. Like that C-suite leader, what's his circle? Who's he talking to?
Yeah.
The 5-10 other execs or managers. That's who he makes his relationships with.
There you go.
Right? I care about you. You're my management team. How are you being successful? Do you need support with your R&D group? Do you need support in your sales team? Do you need more X, Y, and Z? Like, how can I help you do your job better? Cool. How are you serving your people now? What are you doing to make them the same way that I'm supporting you? How are you helping them be successful? Yeah. What do they need from you?
That's good.
Right? Like,
I think you're modeling
it's top down.
Yeah, you're modeling it down, right? What's modeled at the top is what trickles down. And
you make it the culture.
Yes.
Right? Like, yes. Look at me like, wow, our culture really sucks. Okay, we need to change it. Change starts at the top. It's not, hey, I see that you're filling up coffee for $7.50 and surviving on tips. You need to have a smile on your face. Yeah. Like that's not where change happens.
I want to talk about mindset for a minute because you talk about this and you talk about how that working hard is not the same thing as what?
Working smart.
Like hard work and working hard are not the same.
No, it's not. One thing that I like to talk about when it comes to work, regardless of what you do, is intentionality.
Yeah.
Right. Like there's a lot of things that will get done, but in the absence of intention or leadership, you become at the mercy of the situation.
That's good.
So in a real life scenario, taking on a fire call, went to a bar and there's like a fight or something happened. Some girl had some like head pain or something. So we went out there. It's nighttime, it's 10 o'clock, it's raining. We get there, I have a volunteer and I'm letting her do her thing because I'm helping teach her. And we got there and she's, doing her thing. There's a big crowd. And eventually like, hey, let's let's get inside. So she opens the door and says, all right, jump in. So the lady jumps in the seat and she goes in, does her workout, and then later kicks her out, right? She stayed home. She didn't need us. But at the end of the call, it's like, number one, good job, right? You ticked all the boxes. We did everything right. But there's a lot of things that could have gone better.
Mm.
And it could have gone better because you didn't take charge of the situation, right? You did your job,
yeah,
but you didn't look at the intention of what you're doing. Right. So we get there and there's a big crowd. So the intent is isolate your scene, right? Take control of that. So you don't have to do a whole workup outside, right? You can do like quick, hey, are you okay? I'm going to poke and prod you all over, make sure you're not like hurt where I can't see you. Because if you sit down, it's hard to get to your back, right? So take a quick peek at the back, get her in the rig, get her away from the crowd, get her out of the elements, right? Let's make that first step. Because we could have done the whole thing in the rain, it would have been fine, right? No harm, no foul. It would have been uncomfortable and wet, but it would have been fine. So like, one, taking charge of your circumstance, your environment. Number two, she said, hey, jump in there, right? She could have said, I want you to sit in this seat, which she should have, but instead she goes, hey, just hop in. So she went and she jumped in the like back bench seat or something, which made it hard to work around the patient and to get from any side. So instead of saying, hey, I want you to stay here and giving her the option of, mobility and ease of use, right, she let the patient dictate where to go. And so just that common thread of, yes, she did the right things. Yes, the outcome was fine. Everything got taken care of. But instead of taking charge of being intentional with all your decisions, like she made the decisions, but she wasn't intentional about them.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's
good.
And so when I see that in, people writing copy and engaging in social media, they're like, oh, and they'll ask me like, hey, how come I'm not getting sales from this blog post that I did? And it's, top 10 ways to sleep better at night. I'm like, well, what was your intention? Like, well, so people would see it. Like, well, congratulations. You met your intention, right? Like your intention was for people to read your blog post. You did it.
Yeah.
Like, is your intention to get them to your sales page? Then you need to write differently to meet your goal. Right? We think like, hey, I'm being busy. Like I'm doing stuff in my business. I'm going to make this logo or design or this brand or, make this blog article or, get it published on Yahoo because that's what people say it should be on Yahoo. And it's like, well, what's your intent with it?
Yeah.
And since you're doing this, but you're not taking control of how it's done, right? You're not intentional with the way that it's written and the goal, it's not going to work. That's like, you got on Yahoo. That's great. You can put that as seen on badge on your website. As far as it being a worthwhile article that actually drives traffic to you, you whiffed.
Yeah. That's good.
I think intention for me is the driving force. My intention, again, when it comes to my employees, is to make them successful.
Yeah.
The actions I take are secondary, but the intent is for them to be valued in success.
So as a digital marketer, what's one piece of advice you would give to people moving into the entrepreneurial space? And I think based on that last answer, I think I know what it might be.
This might surprise you. Entrepreneurial and being in business is hard, and it can be lonely, and people won't understand you. And just because your family doesn't get you or your friends don't get you, like you're doing something different, and it feels lonely, it doesn't have to be. Like find out where the entrepreneurs are because we're going to cheer you on. Yeah. We get it. Yeah. Being a business owner sucks.
It's hard.
It is. It's hard. And you have good months, you have bad months, and everything in between. But when you're starting on your own and you're figuring it out, like you don't have a framework and people to help you. And you think like, oh, this is awful. Like my parents don't support me, or my girlfriend doesn't get it, or whatever it is. And they're not going to. As a firefighter, my wife didn't understand. None of the spouses understand. They think they do. They think they have a good idea, but they don't. And even when I was a volunteer, I thought I got what the career guys did, and I finally shifted from volunteer to career. And I was like, holy cow, this is a whole new one. It just blew my mind, all the additional stuff that went on and everything behind the scenes. And so even the people in your life that think they get it, they don't get it because they're not doing it. And so when someone's like, oh, you should just give up, like that's really sucky, don't listen to those people. They think, oh, your idea is stupid. Does it solve a problem? Probably not stupid. Like go seek the advice of people who are doing this. Yeah. They will help you. And they might be like, hey man, your idea is pretty dumb. But even if I tell your idea is dumb, like I'm still going to support you. Like, I think we make some changes, or why don't we look in this direction, or X, Y, and Z, right? Like there's this uplifting thing that comes with it. So that's my advice to people who are going into business and entrepreneurs for the first time is it sucks. People aren't going to get you. Finally, they're entrepreneurs because we do get it and we care and we want to see you successful.
Truett Cathy, who started Chick-fil-A, was fond of saying, you know how when somebody needs encouragement? If they're breathing.
Yeah.
Where do you find encouragement?
I guess same thing I was saying, just those different groups of, other people who are hustling and grinding. And while I hate the hustle and grind culture and that mentality, like those are the people who get it. They're like, hey, life sucks. I get up at 5 and do all these different things and blah, blah, blah. And I'm not those people. Like, I'm not getting up at 5, but they understand when something happens. And I'm like, I have this client who's just crazy. And they're like, totally get it.
Yeah.
Like, it's not you. Totally get it.
Yeah.
That encouragement of this other network of people who do what I do, and even people who don't do what I do, but are still entrepreneurs. Like, that's where I find that encouragement.
Our listeners, I imagine, are going to want to connect with you. What's the best way for them to stay connected with you and stay in touch with you and find out more about the services that you provide as a digital marketer?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can go to my website, which is under construction. So it went from like really awful landing page to decently good website. Now I'm working actually on the copy, so it'll be changing through its iterations. But it's Ocelot, OCELOT, and then Traffic, TRAFFIC. So ocelottraffic.com. And you can book a time to book a call with me to be like, hey, I need some marketing services and to be visible on the first page of Google. And I absolutely can help you do that. And there's just some info and stuff right there. So if you want to get a hold of me, Ocelot Traffic is a great way to do that.
That's fantastic. And we'll put that in the show notes as well, so you can connect with Stephen. Stephen, it's truly been an honor to have you with us today. Thank you so much for your time and your generosity in sharing so much of your journey and what you've learned so far along the way.
No, thanks, Doc. Appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to Catalytic Leadership with Dr. William Attaway. Be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts so you don't miss the next episode. Want more? Go to catalyticleadership.net.